Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Money Matters. My name is Chris Magnan, and I will be moderating tonight's presentation. I'm a senior advisor in the Office of Student Financial Assistance and Employment here at the University of Miami. And joining us is Frances Arque. She is also a senior advisor here at the University of Miami, and she's going to be managing the chat room if you have any pressing questions. The one thing we do ask is, before we get started, take a minute to mute your microphones or phones so that everyone can hear the presentation as we move through the presentation, because you're all on a group chat right now, a group call. As it relates to the chat room, though, we do ask that you do not, if you are asking a question, do not put personal information in the chat room, such as your ID number, your name. We're going to talk about financial aid and things like that. So you just want to be careful not to put any personal information in there. I am going to give you contact information to follow up after this presentation with our department if you do have any questions. But you are going to end up finding that throughout this presentation that the majority of the questions on the topics I'm going to be covering are going to be answered later on in the presentation. One main thing to note is that this webinar is being recorded, and it's going to be posted on our YouTube page in a few days. A link to the YouTube page is going to be emailed to everybody who has joined us today. And at the end, if time permits, I'm going to take a few questions via the chat room as well. But without further ado, let's get started. These are the topics that we're going to be covering today. Maximizing your financial aid each year. We're going to focus on what you need to do to be prepared for this upcoming academic year and each academic year, actually. Understanding your money management skills, understanding credit scores and credit reports. We're going to talk about credit cards and what you need to know about them and how they vary from debit cards, how they affect your credit, things along those lines. We're going to talk about understanding debt and tips to manage it. A little bit about student loans and personal debt as well. We're going to cover student employment at the University of Miami, different opportunities that you have on campus when you enroll here, or if your son and daughters enroll here, and then planning a budget to achieve your goals. Each of these are going to be major topics that we're going to end up covering, and I'll elaborate on that as we move forward. But let's get started with how to maximize your financial aid. Getting the most financial aid you possibly can get each academic year requires you, especially at the University of Miami, to meet your filing deadlines for both the FAFSA form and the CSS profile form. The FAFSA form and CSS profile form are forms that you complete to apply for need-based financial assistance. We're going to go over the specific deadlines for applying for financial aid on one of the upcoming slides, but students can complete the FAFSA form and the CSS profile right now. It started actually on 10/1/2017. So if you're going to be starting, we're going to talk about the dates. If you're going to be starting here in the fall, we're going to be talking about the dates. If you're a currently enrolled student, we'll talk about the dates that they're due for you as well. Regularly reviewing and submitting any to-do list items. If you're not a student at UM yet, you may not know what your to-do list is, but I'll explain that in just a little bit. Researching and applying for private scholarship awards. Scholarships, we're going to get into how you find them because they don't find you. Current scholarships and state aid. If you're enrolled at UM right now, we're going to talk about earning what you need to do to earn the proper GPA and credits to renew your awards from this year into next year and so forth. And we're going to talk a lot about borrowing, debt, a little bit of everything relating to that topic. But reducing your loan borrowing next year, okay, some of the ways you can do that are common sense things. Saving money during the summer for a summer job, from a summer job to help offset what you may end up needing to borrow during the upcoming academic year. And then accessing your available assets. Talk to your parents. You may not know that you have a trust fund that's available to you or some investments, liquid investments. I'm not talking about cashing out your retirement plans or anything like that. But, look at all of the available assets that you have and utilize them as you see fit, and try to avoid borrowing if you don't need to. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. And then working while you're enrolled. We'll talk about student employment at the University of Miami. And a lot of the students, even beyond the student employment opportunities at UM, work off-campus part-time jobs, full-time jobs even, while they're attending UM. But working is going to end up helping you save some money, especially if you're living on a budget. We're going to talk about that. And can help you to reduce the amount of money you would have to borrow to attend and then eliminating overborrowing. We'll get into a lot of details about that in just a little bit. But the FAFSA and CSS profile forms, okay, the filing deadlines are for the FAFSA form and the profile application are all listed on this slide right here. If you are a new student, somebody who's going to be starting during this upcoming academic year, if you're an early decision 1 or early action student, the application deadline is December 1st, and that's coming pretty quickly. It's only a few weeks away. If you're early decision 2 or regular decision, January 1st, 2018 is going to be your deadline to get the maximum financial aid you possibly can get in relation to need-based financial assistance. And if you're not familiar with what the differences are between the FAFSA form and the profile form, the FAFSA form gets you need-based financial assistance from the federal government and possibly the state that you're from. There's a lot of Florida state aid programs that many of our students receive, and we'll talk about those in just a little bit. But the profile form, it's called the CSS profile form, it's done through the College Board, is the form that you complete to see if you qualify for need-based grants from the University of Miami. Other deadlines, though, if you're a transfer student who's going to be starting here in the fall, April 15th, your deadline. Spring admit, somebody who's starting here this January, it's November 1st, coming very soon. And then current students, if anybody here on the line is a current student or the parent of a current student, April 15th is your deadline for maximum need-based financial aid eligibility for the upcoming academic year. So you don't want to wait till the last minute for any of these. Even if your deadline's in April, you want to actually complete your FAFSA form and profile applications right now. And you can do so because it doesn't use your 2017 income information. It uses your 2016 tax information, which is already done. So you can actually go online, like I said, right now and take care of that so that you get it all taken care of. Because of the fact that after you apply for financial aid, there may be to-do list items. Segueing into this, if you haven't started at the University of Miami, you may not be familiar with what your Cane Link is, but that is going to be your online resource to everything UM. And we utilize it for financial aid. Your Student Services Center, we utilize it to post what are called to-do list items. They're items that are needed to award you financial aid or finalize your financial aid awards. And you want to review your to-do list on a weekly basis and submit all of your outstanding items, because any delays in submitting the items or not turning the items in can really result in a loss of financial aid eligibility, and we don't want that to happen to you. But your to-do list, it is something that you're going to need to get used to if you have not already started at the University of Miami, and we'll remind you about it. You'll hear more about it, not in this presentation, but once you are a student here at Private and current scholarships. When I talk about current scholarships, some of you who may be enrolled at we're going to talk about what you need to do to renew your scholarships, but the private scholarship application season is starting right now. If you haven't gone out and researched and applied for any types of private scholarships, which are free monies from private organizations, it's time to do it. You don't want to miss out on any free monies. So here are a couple of examples of websites where you can go to search for scholarships, because private scholarships don't find you. You have to go find them, as I mentioned before. But FastWeb is a popular one. Scholarships.com is a popular one. You can search for a lot of others, but these are the main ones that we refer students to. And you may have to submit applications, essays. It does take a little bit of time and effort, but the payoffs can be tremendous. But you want to end up making sure that you do it right now, because the scholarship season ends pretty much in like March or April. So that's when the final application deadlines are expiring for most scholarship that are set by most scholarship organizations, but there are deadlines that are expiring right now. So you want to get in there and start applying as soon as possible. And as it relates to scholarships, when I mention scholarships, you might be thinking, how do I get scholarships from the University of Miami? And it's not even listed here, but your application for admission into the University of Miami, if you get accepted here, that application for admission actually also serves as an application for merit-based scholarships that are renewable here at the University of Miami for the 4 years of your undergraduate degree program. But beyond that, if you are enrolled right now, or you're going to be enrolled in the upcoming academic year, it's good to understand that scholarships don't automatically renew from year to year. You have to maintain certain eligibility criteria, and it varies by award that you have. But Merit awards and certain need-based awards require GPAs and a certain number of earned credits for the renewal of the award from one academic year to the next, from your freshman year to your sophomore year to your junior year, things along those lines. merit awards that come from your application for admission, that serves also as a scholarship application, require a 3.0 GPA and 24 earned credits per year. For the most part, hold on just a moment. I apologize for that. The Merit Awards require, as I said, a 3.0 GPA and 24 earned credits per year. But private scholarships, if you have a private scholarship, each organization sets their own criteria for what they would accept as to what they'd accept in relation to GPA and grades and earned credits and that type of thing. So you'd have to contact those organizations directly. But the Florida Scholarship and Grant Programs, those are huge. A lot of students who are from Florida, and if you are from Florida, may receive one or more of these financial aid awards, and there are even more than that are the ones that are listed here. But the Florida Bright Futures Awards, Florida Student Assistance Grants, Florida Resident Access Grants, the Benequisto Scholarships, and even more. They all have specific requirements for renewal from year to year. So we won't be going over the specifics on each one individually, but if you do receive one of these, or you are the recipient of one of these, and you want to find out how to renew them from year to year, you need to visit floridastudentfinancialaid.org. And you don't have to write down all of these websites because as I said, this is being recorded and you will be able to have access to this later. But floridastudentfinancialaid.org is the place where you go to find out about Florida state renewal requirements. Now we segue into your money management skills, and you got to ask yourself, am I a skilled money manager? Okay, you might be, and especially if you know the answers to all of these questions, that's one step in the right direction. And being here today is also a great step in the right direction, because getting educated helps you become a skilled money manager. The bold printed things that are listed on this checklist here are things that we're going to review in future slides. I'm not going to be getting into too much about investing, when to start, when I'm going to live off of in retirement and retirement plans, but I am going to tell you, and we are going to address, how do I know how much debt I have? Do I know my credit score and what affects it? Do I use my credit cards wisely and what that all means? Do I live on a budget and how to set up a budget? We're going to talk about how to track your student loans. If you have student loans, and not everybody's going to take out student loans, and we don't encourage students to take out student loans if they don't have to, but we're going to get into details about each one of the bold printed topics right here. And on that note, taking control of your financial future, okay? The financial choices you make right now are going to affect your future in many ways. And you may not think about this, but your financial decisions can affect where you live, the vacations you can take, your ability to go out on the town on a regular basis, your ability to own a business or a home, buying a car, even starting a family, or investing for retirement. And people may not know this as well, but your financial decisions can affect your ability to secure a job. And I'm going to get into more details about that in a little bit. But one of the things that I always tell people about is that get educated. My recommendations for you are get educated. Today is one good step in the right direction. Work off a budget, set a budget and stick to it, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then maintain a great credit score. Okay, if you don't have a great credit score, you don't even know what your credit score is, or you think, I don't have a credit score, we're going to be talking about that in just a second. You'll understand more about credit by the end of this presentation. But understanding credit scores and credit reports, okay? A credit score is a number assigned to a person that indicates to lenders their capacity to repay a loan. It's based on your financial history. Well, in real-world terms, you might think of your credit score as a grade that you get on a lifelong test that you're taking here in this country on how well you manage your debts. Everyone in this country that has a Social Security number has a credit score and a credit report. Your credits, and you might not have realized that, and you might think, wait a minute, but how do I have a credit score? I don't have any credit cards yet, and I don't have any loans. How could I have a credit score? The reality is If you have a Social Security number, you have a credit report. I'm going to show you how to get access to a credit report and see your credit score and all those things and why you want to look at them in just a little bit. But your credit score, along with your debt to income ratio, truly determines your interest rates and your ability to get financing and even jobs. And I'll elaborate on the even jobs portion in just a little bit as well. And you may not know, what a debt to income ratio is. If this is the first time you've started thinking about any of this, your debt to income ratio is the amount of money that you have to pay out on a monthly basis versus how much money you're making on a monthly basis. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, and even if you have a good credit history, you may not be able to get the financing or the best interest rates that you would have otherwise gotten if you weren't living paycheck to paycheck. So these are just food for thought right now. I'm going to elaborate on them a little bit more as the presentation moves along. But a good credit score can actually save you tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. And somebody might be thinking, really? That can't be. But it is a reality. Take this, run with it, do a little bit of research on your own after this. I'm going to give you some resources as we progress through the presentation that you can utilize to learn more about credit beyond what you're going to learn today. But the topics that I'm going to cover relating to credit and credit scores are who can affect your credit score, what can affect your credit score, how is your score calculated, what is a good credit score, getting your credit report and score, and I keep talking about that score, kind of important, but what does your credit report show and why do you want to see it, those types of things. We're going to elaborate on those in just a little bit. But let's start with who can have an effect on your credit score. Common sense would be that lenders can have an effect on your credit score. Credit card companies and doctor bills. You might not think about utility bills having an effect on your credit score. Your cable, your cell phone, water, garbage bill, landlords, gym memberships, magazine subscriptions, libraries, Netflix accounts. Basically, anyone you have any financial dealings with at all can have an effect on your credit score. And it's not every single one of these people that are listed on this list are going to show up in your credit report. It's only if you become severely delinquent on a lot of these debts. And I'll talk about how delinquent you have to be before it shows up on your credit report and things along those lines. But let's move into what makes up your credit score. The majority of people think that their credit score is based on their payment history. And that is partially true. As you can see, this pie chart shows you that a good portion is based on your payment history, but a portion of it is also based on the amount of debt you have, how much you owe, and the types of debt that you have, the length of your credit history, and new credit. When it talks about new credit, it's whether or not you've just gotten 2 or 3 new credit cards or applied for new credit cards. If you have inquiries into your credit history or on your credit report, all of these things can have an effect on your credit score. And I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit later. And the types of credit that you use, even though it's only 10% of the pie chart there, credit cards are looked at as a negative thing on your credit report compared to student loan debt or car loans or personal loans or home loans and that kind of thing. And I'll elaborate on what that means in just a little bit. But once you have a good understanding of this, you can kind of figure out, and I'll elaborate more on it, what you need to do to make sure that your credit score stays in good standing. If you don't know your credit score, okay, the credit scoring system ranges and varies by credit agency, and I'll talk about credit agencies in just a little bit, but it varies between 300 and 850. 300 is as low as you go, and 850 is as high as you can go. And this gives you a little idea, based on what your credit score is, whether or not your score is looked at as excellent, good, very good, poor, fair. Basically, you want to be in the very good to excellent category. And it's not very easy, without some education and some hard work, to get to the excellent category. That's the area where you're going to get the 0.9% financing on this and that type of, like a car loan or a home loan. You get the best rates and things like that if you have the highest credit score. But me personally, when I was in college, I wasn't educated about financing and money and credit cards, but I had every credit card under the sun. But when I was in college, I had a 570 credit score. Currently, I have a 785. If you do not have good credit, all hope is not lost. You have an opportunity, if you get educated about it, to change your credit score. But you got to understand these things. What affects your credit score? The number of times that you're 30, 60, 90, or 120 days delinquent on your payments to your creditors, the percentage of your credit card limit that you're carrying from month to month. You can, and you might not have ever thought about that before. The 30, 60s, 90s, and 120-day delinquencies on your creditors, I forgot to elaborate on that a little bit. Most creditors do not report you to the credit agency as being delinquent unless you're a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months late on that debt. Because you paid a late fee, because you were 10 days late or 5 days late on the bill, that doesn't mean it's been affecting your credit. You have to be at least 30 days delinquent for the creditor to report something to the credit agency. But the percentage of you, going back to the percentage of your credit card limit, or your credit card limit that you're carrying from month to month, that does affect your credit score. You can carry a balance from month to month, but you have to keep it below 20% of your credit limit. If it's over 20, 25% of your credit limit, it's hurting your credit score, even if you're making your payments on time every single month and you don't miss a payment. Just as an example, you have a $1,000 limit and you're carrying $500 from month to month. It's hurting your credit score because you're at 50% of your credit limit, even if you're paying on time. There's no way to control that. We don't have control individually to change anything like that, but it is something you need to know. And the percentage of credit card debt that's in your debt portfolio has an effect on your credit score. All right. Credit card debt is known as revolving debt, and it's looked at as worse than loans, which is known as installment debt. It's, again, not something you can have control over, but it is if you manage your finances wisely and reduce your credit card debt, but you can't control whether or not it hurts your credit score more than a loan. You want to reduce your credit card debt as quickly as you possibly can, and we're going to get into examples of that in just a little bit. But how many times, another thing that affects your score, is how many times and the frequency that you apply for credit. Inquiries into your credit. You might have heard of this before. Inquiries into your credit are when somebody looks at your credit. Maybe it's when you apply for a credit card, maybe you apply for a car loan, you apply for whatever it is. Around the holidays, you go to Macy's, I'm getting a 10% discount on this jacket, shirt, whatever it is, watch. And you think it's a great idea, and you go from store to store, and you keep getting discounts because you keep applying for credit cards. Well, all those things are called inquiries into your credit. Whether you get the credit card, you don't get the credit card. And every time an inquiry pops up in your credit report, it's about 3 to 5 points off your credit score. And if you do it infrequently, it's not a big deal because you're going to apply for financing, cars, homes, different types of things throughout your lifetime. But if you do it frequently, many times in a short period, within a short period of time, that can really have an effect on your credit score. But keep in mind that inquiries into your credit aren't long-term challenges that you face when it comes to credit issues. The points that are taken off your credit score are given back to you within a year to 2 years from the time that you have that inquiry on your credit report. So all hope isn't lost if you've applied for a lot of credit cards recently. But I'd recommend not doing that and understanding what's on your credit report and more about credit before you get into doing something like that again in the future. But at the bottom it says, and you can read it for yourself, claiming bankruptcy, defaulting on student loans, and home foreclosures. You all know that they're all bad things. Sometimes they're unavoidable, but most of the time, if you manage your debts wisely, they're not. But they're the top 3 credit killers. So you want to end up making sure that you avoid them at all costs. But getting your credit report and credit score, how do you get it? Okay, if you're not aware of it, you've heard a lot of different sites that are advertised on TV and things like that you can get your free copy of your credit report from this company. You really can get a free copy of your credit report. You're entitled to it every 12 months for free, from each of the 3 credit agencies. And the government overseen website that you can utilize to get a copy of your credit report that with no strings attached whatsoever is called annualcreditreport.com. All right, so we recommend that you go there. If you've never seen a copy of your credit report, you don't think you have a credit report, well, remember, if you have a social security number, you have a credit report. And it's free once every 12 months, okay? And another thing, there's a misconception out there that checking your own credit has an effect on your credit score and will negatively affect you. That is not the reality, okay? Checking your credit is considered a soft inquiry into your credit, And that is actually a great thing to do on a regular basis so that you can, you know what's going on with your credit report. You want to make sure that you're not the victim of identity theft and things like that, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But even though your credit report is free, your credit score is not, okay? But it only costs about $9 to obtain the credit score from each of the 3 credit agencies. If you get your credit score, and your credit score really doesn't vary from agency to agency all that much. One of them might have a score that runs from 330 to 830. The other one might be 300 to 800. The other one from 350 to 850. But if you want to get all 3 credit scores, it's going to cost about $27. But even if you just start with one, that's totally fine. It's worth it to know your score to spend a few dollars on this if you don't know your score already. And just so you know, if you're just getting into the credit world for the first time and you have nothing on your credit report, you start out with about a 650 credit score. And you either work your way up from that or you work your way down from that. And if you don't know, that's considered good credit in the eyes of creditors. But as I mentioned, scores may vary differently between credit reporting agencies, but you can go through annualcreditreport.com or you can visit Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion's individual websites to get your credit score. But you might as well go through the one site. Just remember annualcreditreport.com. And as I said, you don't really have to write this down because you're going to get the link to this presentation in a few days once it's available on YouTube. All right, what shows up on your credit report? What are you going to see when you get your credit report? All right, past, present, and future debts are on your report. You might be thinking past and present, you have somebody you owed in the past, somebody you owe right now, but future debts, what the heck are they? Future debts are student loans that are in an in-school deferred status. So if you're in school right now and you have a student loan, or you were in college previously and have a student loan, and it's in an in-school status because you're enrolled, then they're going to show up as a future debt, which means you don't have to pay on it right now, but it's coming due sometime in the future. The report's also going to show your history with each of your creditors. This is going to include when accounts were opened and closed, what your credit limits were, your balances, payment history, basically everything about the debt. And it's actually in one of the tabs a couple down. It's a great way for you to find out who you owe and the details of a debt. If you lost track of an old bill, looking at your credit report is a great way to find it. You want to make sure that you're not the victim of identity theft, that third tab there. If you get your credit report and you see that a whole bunch of purchases were made that were not authorized by you, you're going to have to contact the credit agencies and creditors to work on how you can get those things fixed. Sometimes it's as difficult as having to hire a lawyer to prove that it wasn't you that purchased them. But sometimes somebody purchased something in Ohio when you were in class here in South Florida, and you can easily prove it wasn't you. But if you're the victim of identity theft, you're going to have to contact the credit agencies and creditors that are listed on the credit report and address it with them. You're also going to see who's been inquiring into your credit history, all right? Usually that's only going to be the creditors, like people you apply for credit through, like a credit card company, a car loan company, those types of things. But employers will also be on there. As you get out into the workforce, as you're graduating, especially after college, and you're going out for a career position, the majority of employers are now going to screen your credit report as part of the hiring process. And if they don't like what they see, it can possibly cost you a job. And why do they do that? You got to think, well, the main reason why they do it is because of the fact that they may be thinking they're going to give you responsibility for a multi-million-dollar budget, and they're trying to decide between you and somebody else, and all of a sudden they are going to look at your credit report and say, wait a minute, we're going to trust this person to manage our monies, but they can't even manage their own, and they may decide that that's the make or breaker when they're looking to hire you. So keep that in mind. But credit cards, are they really the devil? No, credit cards are not the devil. If you use them wisely, they're a great way for you to establish credit, maintain good credit, and those types of things. But we're going to talk about credit cards versus debit cards, the differences, how they affect your credit, saving money on your credit card debt, ways to do that, and then what happens if you miss a payment. And that's going to all be on other slides. But you may ask yourself, or you really should ask yourself, do you want a credit card interest rate reduction? If you've never had a credit card interest rate reduction and you're in good standing on your credit card and you've had the card for a year or more, then all you have to do is ask for one. You'd be very surprised that it's absolutely that simple. Especially, I've had it done multiple times on my cards, especially when I was in college and I paid really high interest rates. But if you turn the card over, call the customer service number, and ask for an interest rate reduction, if you are in good standing with the card company, you are highly likely to get an interest rate reduction, and you might be surprised that it's just a phone call that it takes to do that. But credit cards versus debit cards. Debit cards draw from an available balance in your bank account and do not have a direct effect on your credit history. Okay, unless you're a habitual overdrafter, your bank might report you to a credit agency, but normally they just hit you up with overdraft fees and things like that. So debit cards don't have an effect on your credit score, all right? Whereas credit cards draw on a credit limit issued by a bank, and all your activity with the credit card shows up on your credit report, positive and negative activity, all right? Don't get me wrong. Credit cards are a great way for a young adult to start developing credit. It's even a great way for an older person to start rehabilitating their credit and proving to somebody that they can manage their debts wisely. But what does using credit cards wisely even mean? Okay, using them like a debit card and not charging more than you can pay off each month, or not carrying more than 20% of your credit limit as a balance from month to month and paying your payments on time. All right, if you use it like your debit card, if you use your debit card right now and you're thinking it's helping your credit, it's not doing anything for your credit. But if you use your credit card the same way you do your debit card and pay it off every single month, there can be a lot of perks to that. Not only will it help your credit score, but the credit card companies offer perks that encourage spending. And they're in the form of what are called cashback bonuses and earning points for other purchases and flights and vacations and all these types of things. But the only way to reap the full benefits of these cashback bonuses and points is if you don't pay any interest on your credit card each month by paying your card in full on a monthly basis. Okay, you feasibly could get paid to use your credit card with the cashback bonuses if you don't pay any interest. I seriously, for years and years and years, I put everything under the sun on my credit cards and pay it off in full every single month to help me get my credit score up there. But it also gets me a lot of money in my pocket in the form of cashback bonuses. So you'll learn that can be a nice little perk and benefit as you move forward with your whole financial plan for your lifetime. And with that being said, we talk about credit cards. You understand what a credit card is, but people will accumulate credit card balances. Sometimes the balances that you might think, I can't afford to pay this off. And there are two examples on this slide that are of somebody with a $2,500 credit card balance, sorry. And it gives you examples of how much money you can save by paying a little bit more than the minimum monthly payment on the card. You use the top example. That person has a $2,500 credit card balance at an 11.6% interest rate and is paying the minimum monthly payment of $50 a month. It takes them 7 years to pay off that debt. And by the end of the repayment, paying the minimum monthly payment, gets charged $2,120 worth of interest, okay? Versus if you double that minimum monthly payment, you might think, I'm going to pay half as much interest. No, if you were to pay $100 a month in the example at the bottom, it only takes 3 years to repay that debt, and you're only paying $761 worth of interest, almost a third of the interest compared to paying the minimum monthly payment. So this is just a slide to plant the seed in your mind on how, if you pay just a little bit more than you're supposed to be paying, or the minimum monthly payment, how you can save yourself a lot of money on your credit card debts. You don't really want to be carrying balances for long periods of time, and the quicker you can get them paid off, the better. But what happens if you miss a payment? Some of these things are common sense. You get charged late fees. You get your credit report. Now you might understand that your credit report is negatively impacted. Your credit score can go down. The card's interest rates can go up because of the fact that you didn't make the payments on it. Or other credit card interest rates can go up. If you might be paying, you might have two credit cards, and one of them you pay on time, all the time, never miss a payment, don't carry a debt on it. And the other one, you get around to it, or you lost track of it, and there's some delinquencies on there. That might cause the card that you have a great history with to have an increase in the interest rate as well. All right, and how you can protect yourself from this is being proactive. All right, you're having a challenge and nobody knows your finances better than you. proactively call your credit card company and creditors if you're going to be late with your payment. All right? Don't do it 3 months after you've been reported to the credit agency and you look at your credit report and you're like, oh my God, I got a 90-day delinquency on my credit report. And you call them up and say, oh, I've been out of work for the last 3 months. Why did you report me to the credit agency? And they'll say, because you didn't call us 3 months ago. We would have not reported you to the credit agency had you shared that information with us earlier. And they won't go back and fix it after the fact. You have to be proactive. But you will be surprised at the willingness of creditors to help you, when you're having a financial bind. And that's all your creditors, not just your credit cards. It's student loans, personal loans, car loans, even your mortgage if you need it. But you got to communicate with them. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Understanding loan debt. These are topics I'm going to cover relating to loan debt. Some of it's going to be student loans related. It can be used for any type of loan, really. But loans are borrowed money. They're not free. Student loans and the difference. I'm going to explain a little bit about that. Federal loan repayment options and forbearances for those of you who might be in school right now or have a student loan of your own or are going to be taking out a student loan. We'll talk about the options you've got when you go into repayment after school. And how to access your federal loan information online, how to track them, And then if you're having trouble making your payments, what do you do? This is common sense, I believe, as well. Borrowed money is not free. Anything called a loan has to be paid back with interest. Okay, all federal education loans in the form of subsidized, unsubsidized loans, PLUS loans, Perkins loans, they can all be paid off before or during repayment with no prepayment penalties, but they are loans. The one called a subsidized loan, which if you're not in school and you don't have any student loans to date, there is something that you might get awarded as part of your financial aid package called a direct subsidized student loan. And the word subsidized means that the government's paying the interest on it while you are in school. So that loan is interest-free while you're attending school, and most of the loans go into repayment 6 months after you leave. But that is the only education loan that is interest-free that you might receive during this upcoming academic year. If you're a currently enrolled student who's been here for a while, we used to award Perkins loans. So you may end up having a Perkins loan, which is similar to a subsidized loan, but new students won't be awarded that. But the Perkins loan is an interest-free loan while you're enrolled in school as well. But a lot of details about student loans can be found on our office's website. It's www.finaid.miami.edu. If you click on resources, there is a plethora of information in there on student loans, credit, everything under the sun, which I'm going to refer back to that in just a little bit as well. But if you don't need a loan, don't borrow it. It'll be, if you apply for the FAFSA and do the CSS profile, it's part of your financial aid awards would include a small student loan for the upcoming academic year and possibly each academic year. But it doesn't mean you have to take that loan. If you don't need it, don't borrow it. Okay? But if you do borrow in college, some people borrow so much that it causes them to get a refund. All right? Maybe parents, because of their financial situation, have to take out a parent loan to pay for everything. And they want to get a little bit extra for living expenses, usually is what it's for. Only use this extra money. If you do get a refund during the academic year, only use this extra money for living expenses such as housing, books, personal expenses, personal items, telephone and transportation. Don't use it to buy a new jet ski, scuba gear, jewelry, or partying on the weekends. Getting a refund sounds all kinds of exciting. Wow, I got $1,000, I got $2,000, let's go party. No, don't think that way. During college, you want to start thinking about your needs versus what your wants are. We'll talk about that when we get into budgeting as well. But also remember that loan repayment takes the fun out of refunds. So if you take out a loan that causes a refund, don't get too excited about that refund because you do have to end up paying that loan back. That being said, we're going to move on to student loans and the difference. Our students who graduate with a 4-year degree, okay, our undergraduate students who have student loans graduate with an average loan debt of $20,500 in federal loan debt, which is below the $31,100 national average. We at limit student loan debt by offering less in federal loans than the regulations allow and try to meet more need with grants, scholarships, and work study programs, which I'm going to talk about work study in just a little bit. But grants and scholarships, they're free monies. And if you're currently enrolled at or you're going to start in the fall, you will see that if you have financial need or you're a good academic student, can be quite generous with the awards that we give to students. In just a note, we offer thousands less in federal loans than the government allows us to award to you all because of the fact that we truly care about your financial future. And that's part of why we're doing this presentation today. We want families to make good and informed decisions about financing their education. And again, if you don't need a student loan, don't borrow it. But if you do have a student loan, it's good to understand that there are options when you graduate. All right, as you are leaving and graduating, I don't know, there might be students on the call today or in the webinar that are going to be graduating soon, and they might be thinking, what options do I have? Well, this lists the options for federal student loans. A standard repayment plan that most people will be put on, and it's the cheapest plan you can get on in relation to saving yourself the most in interest, is the 10-year plan. You pay fixed amounts per month until the loan's paid off. There are other options. Extended repayment extends your payments up to 25 years, but it can be costly because the longer you pay off a debt, the more it costs you in interest. Graduated repayment plans start off low, then increase in stages, usually every 2 years or so. And you can choose any one of these plans that works with your financial situation. But even there are income-driven repayment options that the government has. There are several options that fall under this umbrella, and these are set up to not bankrupt you, to make sure that you are fiscally sound and that you can afford to pay your bills. All right, it can be based on a small percentage of your income and things along those lines. But you would talk to, if you want to learn more about these things, it's studentloans.gov at the bottom gives you the site that you go to learn more about the repayment options. But during repayment, this thing called a forbearance. Forbearances are temporarily postponing or reducing your payments. Okay, a forbearance is if you get into a financial bind, the federal government has a benefit that can help you protect your credit. All right, if you're unable to pay due to poor health, unforeseen problems such as employment, a car repair, moving expenses, seasonal layoff, you got this apartment, you thought you were going to have your first month's rent plus security deposit, but then they said, no, you need a last month's rent too. And you're like, oh my God, I had to come up with an extra $1,000. Didn't expect it. If you need a forbearance on your loan, all you have to do is call your loan servicer and ask for one. Okay, keep in mind that during a forbearance, if you're in repayment on your loans, there's interest building up on that loan. Interest will build up on your loan. But what will happen is if you get a forbearance for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or even up to 12 months at a time, you don't have to back pay all those payments at the end of the forbearance, which is, like I said, a break on your payments for a period of time. What they do is take what you would have paid and spread it out over the remaining period of your loan or whatever your debt is. So keep that in mind. It is an option for you. We'll talk about maybe that a little bit more in just a minute. But how to access your federal loans online. NSLDS.ed.gov, National Student Loan Data System. This is the site where you would log into using your FAFSA login credentials, and this is only after you've already got a student loan and you're here at UM. If you don't have a student loan yet, nothing's going to show up on here, even when you get awarded a student loan. Unless you borrow it and you enroll in school and we receive money, you won't be on this website. But once you do start having student loans, this is where you're going to track them until you're done paying them off. Everything you need to know about the loans is on here, except that it only includes federal loans on this website. For private loans, you have to actually contact your lender and get access to their website because of the fact that private loans such as Wells Fargo loans or Sallie Mae loans from a private entity that you might take out as a student with a cosigner or apparently cosign for would only show up on their websites. But all your federal loans, the subsidized loans, unsubsidized loans, even parent plus loans will show up on this site. And if you're having problems paying your loans, I mentioned this before, call your creditors to discuss your repayment options. You might want to be on one payment plan, you want to switch to another one. Proactively ask for help before your payments are due. Again, I said it before, but I'm repeating it because it's important. Most creditors are willing to work with you on temporary challenges that you may be facing. During federal loan repayment, borrowers are eligible for up to 36 months of those things called forbearances that I mentioned before. And it's as easy as just making a phone call and saying, hey, I need a couple months off. I'm in financial bind right now. They'll say, okay, this is how you do it. You can't, when you're graduating, call them up and say, I want 36 months off. It doesn't work that way.
But in short-term, small periods of time, they give it to you for a couple of months, 3 months, 6 months, even up to a year at a time, but not to exceed that. And you can protect your credit by keeping your lenders informed, because it's your legal right and legal responsibility to make sure that your mailing address, telephone numbers, email address are updated with all of your creditors. You might think, oh, I'm not receiving the bill, so they can't hold me responsible for it. No, not receiving a bill doesn't make it go away, nor does it decrease your responsibility for the payment of that bill. You don't want to end up being surprised when you go to buy your first house or your first new car, and find a couple of debts on your credit report that haven't been paid for the last 2 years because you didn't keep track of them or update your creditors with your current information. So now we segue out of student loans and start getting into student employment at UM. Okay, how do you avoid having to borrow so much? How do you pay your bills? Well, some options that you've got are work opportunities at UM. All right, all job opportunities, and you can take a look at this even now to see what kind of job availability there is for currently at UM, but all job opportunities that are listed here and are bolded are available on miami.edu/jobx, okay? But keep in mind that students can only hold one paid position at a time on campus. But the need-based opportunities, you might have heard of something called college work study. I'll get into what that is, and it's relating to you having financial need and having a part-time job on campus. But I'll elaborate on that in a minute. Non-need-based opportunities are Lead Miami, the student assistant programs, and the graduate assistant programs on campus. And as I said, let's talk about the Federal College Work Study Program. This is a federally funded part-time job on campus. All right. There are some off-campus community service positions that are also available, but the majority of them are right on campus. Students get paid every 2 weeks for the hours that they work. And students who are on this call right now and have work study know that their Federal College Work Study Award is the maximum that they can earn in the academic year, and it's not a deduction from their UM charges. All right. If you get awarded Federal College Work Study as part of your financial aid award package, it's a need-based award, and a lot of students do get it. That does not get deducted from your charges. It's the amount of money you can earn, and it might be around $3,000, but it's the amount of money that you can earn in this part-time job while you're attending classes here at UM. And to be considered, undergraduate students have to demonstrate need, as I mentioned, and meet the FAFSA and CSS profile filing deadlines each academic year. And I didn't mention it before, well, I might have actually, but your FAFSA form and your CSS profile form do have to be completed once per academic year. We'll remind you about the dates for those, but the Lead Miami Student Employment Program. This program is funded by UM and provides students with long-term off-campus work opportunities. Okay, it's available for incoming freshmen only, so if you're an incoming freshman student and you get on our website and learn more about it and are interested in it, then you'd apply for this program, and it shows you the website at the bottom. But this program not only gives you a work opportunity, it's a 4-year commitment on your part. It provides you with leadership development opportunities on top of the job opportunities that you're going to end up having as part of the program. But if you're interested in finding out more about it, you search Lead Miami on UM's website, which is miami.edu, to get more information on the application deadlines, the application itself. I think the application deadline for incoming students is somewhere in May, but you'll see on the website if you're interested. Go take a look. Student assistant and graduate assistant programs, okay? Both of these programs are departmentally funded, which means they're funded by the department. These student assistant and graduate assistant positions are like part-time employees within the department. They usually get paid a little bit more than work study students, may have some other benefits that go along with them, but all openings for these jobs as well are listed on miami.edu/jobx, okay? And the benefits for each program, though, vary by department, by program, and that type of thing. So you want to visit the website to get more information on the details for the job that you're looking to get into. Just keep in mind that student assistant positions are for undergraduate students, while graduate assistants graduate assistant positions must be enrolled in graduate school here at UM. All right, budgets. Oh, building and living on a budget. If you've never built a budget for yourself or lived off of a budget, It's one of the best ways that you can protect your credit and assure yourself a better financial future. But we're going to get into details about the lifelong benefits of living on a budget, the 3 steps that go into putting a budget together, assessing your finances, setting your financial goals, and prioritizing your expenditures, and then reassessing your budget regularly. All right, we're going to talk about the benefits and why you'd want to do that. But there are some really detailed budget resources available on our website, whereas there's like forms you can fill out and fill in the blanks, create charts that you can use to create a specific budget for yourself. But we're going to talk about what you need to do to be prepared to create a budget for yourself. As it says here, you click on resources and choose what's called fiscal fitness to find out more information on more detailed information than what you're going to learn today about budgeting. But the benefits of living on a budget during college. There's a little reference up here at the top, which references one of the links that you have out of the fiscal fitness portion of our website, because some of the wording here came from this site. But creating a budget plan is an important step for every student to take to assess his or her financial wellness. All right. A college student budget can help you keep track of your expenses and analyze your assets and income and set financial goals for yourself. And I think you probably understand that already. But whether these goals are short, medium, or long term, a personal budget plan really can truly help you achieve them. All right. And not only that, living on a budget is also going to help you protect your credit and allow you easier access to a better financial future. As I've been talking about, your credit is critically important and can save you a lot of money over your lifetime. But creating the budget, step 1, assessing your finances. You've got to sit down and determine what your assets are from income and savings before you put this budget together. You've got to clarify the amounts in your bank accounts, and that's kind of common sense. But you should also include savings bonds, CDs, and any other liquid assets or investments that you've got when you're planning your budget out. Can I manage everything on what I've got in the bank and my income? Or do I have to tap into some of my assets that I have, like savings bonds and CDs, trust funds, things like that? And determining your monthly income and what potential income you're going to have while you're in school. Am I going to be working while I'm in school? How many hours a week am I going to be working? How much can I save during the summer? All these things have to be thought about before you put your budget plan together. But once you've figured out what all of your assets are that are available to you, you got to determine what your expenses are, and you need to brainstorm everything, even the littlest things. This can include like what you need to pay in tuition and fees. Your clothing, your housing, food, utilities, transportation, entertainment, going out, for dinner, vacations, cell phone, medications, pet care, coffee. It could be just about anything. But when you're doing this and you're brainstorming about this, you have to include everything, even the smallest things, because they can add up. Step 2, setting your financial goals. Okay? Goals can be the short-term, medium, or long-term goals. All right? And short-term goals can be something that smaller things like paying this month's rent, going to a new restaurant, seeing a band, somebody in concert coming up in the next few weeks or something like that, or just taking a weekend ski trip. Maybe you're going to plan your monies and to save up for this short-term activity that you're going to end up wanting to do. A medium-term goal might be something a little bigger, taking a summer road trip with your friends, buying next semester's books, which are never inexpensive, studying abroad, which is a great opportunity during your time at UM. You have a lot of opportunities for study abroad options, or buying a new car with a student car loan. You got to plan a little bit more for that because it's a little higher, a larger expense. But long-term goals may be paying off your student loans or private loans, investing in the stock market, planning for retirement, or saving a down payment for a condo. These are big ticket items, all right? And right now, if you're a college student or about to be a college student, you're going to be looking at more of the short-term goals. And as you progress through your college career, start looking at longer-term goals. Wants versus needs, prioritizing your expenditures, all right? You got to ask yourself, can I have it all, or do I need to limit spending? You got to look at what's most important to you. If you figure out your budget and you've got enough money to pay for whatever you want to end up doing, fantastic. If you find out that I can't do whatever I want to do, then that's when you have to start really thinking about limiting your spending. And where can I cut expenses? What can you do to cut expenses? Small things add up. Adjusting your air conditioning down here, AC is big, up north, that might be the heating. Not sure where everybody's calling in from, but adjusting your AC a little bit warmer so that you're not paying as much in electric bills. Drinking instant coffee. Change your cell plan or provider. Limit your nights out, dining out. Could be a little bit of anything. All these, like as I said before, even the smallest things can all add up. And also, you got to start thinking about the possibility of eliminating the nice-to-haves. Examples. You don't want to hear this, but can I live without a car while I'm in college? Some of you are going, no, it's not going to be possible. Yes, it is possible, especially if you're living on campus or living close to campus. There's a nice metro system around here. And I am a perfect example. When I was in college, I got in over my head financially by the time I was at the end of my sophomore year, and I had to sell my car, and I rode the bus to go to college for 2 years until I graduated, when I bought a new car for myself. But you can live without a car while you're in college, Or do you need a new car? Some of you might be like, oh, yeah, I have to have the nicest car I can afford. Well, things you got to think about. Do I need the premium meal plan if you're currently enrolled here or you're choosing to come here? Can I have a lesser expensive meal plan and live on less meals per week? Some people sign up for the premium meal plan because it's the best and it has unlimited meals and all of these types of things, but it costs a lot of money. And if you can't afford it, great. If you can't, got to think about that. Do I truly need a single room on campus? Single rooms are much more expensive than doubles and quads and things like that. So just things that you have to think about to make sure that you're on track with putting your financial budget together. But once you do create a budget, you've got to reassess it regularly. Over time, your expenses, income, and assets are going to change. You might have things that pop up that you didn't expect, a car accident, a car repair. It could be a little bit of anything, but it's recommended that you reassess your budget and goals at least once every 6 months, or when you experience an unforeseen financial challenge, whichever comes first. But doing this is going to help you determine if you need to change your focus, or if you're on track with reaching your short, medium, long-term, or long-term goals. And if you are on track, fantastic. Stick with the plan. But as I said, no matter what, at least every 6 months, go back and look at that budget that you created 6 months before and see if it's still working for you. And furthering your financial education, beyond today, beyond this webinar, there are a lot of opportunities for you to get educated on fiscal fitness and money matters. Okay, there's one on our, it's called Financial Aid TV, miami.financialaidtv.com. This site contains excellent short video answers on basically any question you could possibly have regarding money matters, about all of the money matters, about all the different things we had discussed that I had just explained to you today, along with a lot of different things that we haven't covered today. There's so much to learn. Also, our website for the department, finaid.miami.edu. You click on resources, then fiscal fitness, for a lot of great and detailed information on how to become an excellent money manager. Okay, and with that being said, maintaining your finances is a lifelong process, and the better you get at it early in life, the easier it is to ensure yourself a positive financial future. And with that being said, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope that you had learned something. This is our contact information for our department. If you ever needed to contact us, we are in the Whitten University Center. If you are on campus, you probably already know where the office is, but if not, that's okay. This is going to be in the PowerPoint presentation that's going to be online. You don't have to worry about writing all of these things down. When we ask you to follow us on Twitter as well, at UM_OSFAE, it's the Office of Student Financial Assistance and Employment. So if you're on Twitter, please follow us on Twitter as well. And this just gives you a little update on our hours of operation. With that being said, like I said, I hope that today was helpful to you. It is, I think, 6 o'clock. We are actually right on time. And I think Francis has done an excellent job of answering a lot of your questions in the chat. But if somebody does have, and if somebody else does have a question that remains unanswered, please put it in the chat and we'll see if we can answer your questions right now. And if not, we will wrap it up, and I think we're done for the evening. Do we have anyone? No. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great night.